This is just what a just a debacle of a football game tonight.
Oh,
Alec in
so
South
bad.
Dakota, you're on Vikings Ventline.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, man. Well, hey, it's the holiday season. Yeah. Okay, we all get to hang out with friends and family, and
right.
you know.
Right. Well, happy holidays. But okay, let's get into this. So, John in Manhattan, what a lazy take, if I've ever heard one. That is the most low-hanging fruit take that you could possibly have. Is Kirk in the top tier of quarterbacks? No. But can he bring a team with this much talent to a deep playoff run with a little bit of help and a little bit of competency? Yes. And I don't want to hear a slander. That interception he threw, if Diggs isn't, I'm not even going to get into whether it was a PI or not, whether he was interfered with or he fell down. I don't care. If Diggs is able to jump up and go for that ball, it's not picked. I don't care. So now let's focus the clown mask really needs to be worn by two individuals tonight. Even though Garrett Bradbury struggled, offensive line as a whole kind of struggles, but they all look bad if one person is really blowing it. Can you guys explain to me why Riley Reif is in the NFL? What? How? I mean, if you're big enough, do they just give you a contract? Like,
kind of, actually, yeah.
Block anyone. He cannot. And I know, Smith or whatever. He's very fast. He's very athletic. I don't care. Okay, this is not the only game. He has no business being on this team next year. He, along with Robson, needs to be cut. Now, clown mask number 2, and up until the second half, this was my one reason for the Vikings, being in the position that they were in. At 10 minutes to go in the third, I think it was, the Vikings had like 17 minutes of possession, Green Bay 31 or something like that. That is insane. And that is due to Mr. Kevin Stefanski. Unbelievable, horribly inept play calling tonight. He play called like he was scared, like he was a kid on Madden 12 playing as Adrian Peterson, just wanting to hand it off and run the whole time and I'll win the game. Absolutely terrible. There's no excuse. And just explain that to me. What possibly his rationale is? Because honestly, I tried to put myself in his footsteps and I just couldn't see it. So just please elaborate on or try to, shed some light on that. Thanks, guys. Happy holidays.
Alec in South Dakota. Hey, happy holidays to you too, man. Well, what would you have done as a play caller tonight?
Well, here's the thing, though, because he mentioned the Vikings running the ball. The Vikings ran the ball 16 times tonight. Kirk Cousins threw the ball 31 times. So they threw basically, I guess if you factor in the Philly special, that was a complete disaster.
They ran a Philly special.
Was a complete disaster.
Dude, they ran an amazing Philly special. Yeah. And Stephon Diggs.
They did everything right except complete the pass, which is the most important part of the play. But they basically, and mind you too, Cousins was sacked 5 times tonight. Offensive line disaster, like you mentioned. So the Vikings basically called 37 passing plays tonight. And they ran the ball 16 times. So they weren't really married to the running game tonight. The issue was, I think play calling was a bit of an issue. But also, Phil, this quarterback, man, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say anymore because
let me help you with this because I've gone through this all season too.
Yeah.
And he has been wonderful for the most part, against the teams that he should be wonderful against.
Yep.
He's very much a front-running quarterback. And there's not going to be 32 great franchise guys. And so when you start to parse apart, okay, who's in this tier, who's in that tier, you got your Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, you got your whatever tier Tom Brady's in now. I mean, there is a clear top tier of quarterbacks, and he is not in that tier. And so the whole conversation is, okay, well, how good does he need to be? And how good does he need to be against certain teams? How much does he need to rise above adversity and bad offensive line play? How much should we expect of him knowing that he's not a top tier quarterback? And I go back and forth every single week. I mean, this is what kind of ticks me off. You have these discussions after a night like this, and he was not good. He had one great pass tonight, and it was a big boy, top-tier throw to Stephon Diggs in the end zone.
100%.
It was a great throw. And then you look at the rest of the game, and I am not blaming him solely for what happened in this game. The offensive line played maybe their worst game of the entire season so far.
Stefanski was not good from a play calling perspective. Yep.
The defense in the first half had the ball walked up and down between the 20s, and they did generate turnovers. But it's this area where it's like you're not allowed. It's if the offensive line had 3 bad pass protection plays, like you're not allowed to criticize Kirk Cousins unless everything was perfect and he failed. So that's the discussion that's going to and by the way, there's going to be a playoff game that he has a chance to prove himself in. I mean, there's more tests to come. But after tonight, I think it's fair to say he was not given a lot of help by scheme or by offensive line. And also, he was not good enough himself
to overcome some of that.
Correct.
Yeah. And you know what? Because for the last few weeks, especially since he's been playing so well, the discussion has been so much about, you give Kirk Cousins an extension, and how much would you give him, and should he get fully guaranteed money again? Should he get $40 million a year? Yada yada. I am having a very difficult time even having that conversation right now, especially after what I saw tonight from Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot. It's a very, very, very difficult conversation, and I understand, like, with the position, it's hard to find a really good player at that position. It's the most important position in the sport. But it's also like, if you're going to win at a high level, you need that guy to be able to perform well in situations like tonight. You need him to be able to perform at a high level once in a while in those positions. And if he can't do it, if this continues to be a thing, I know people are tired of hearing about the Monday night and the primetime narrative with Kirk Cousins, but he had an opportunity tonight to shut everybody up. And it didn't happen again. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing over and over and over again of, well, it's the offensive line. And it was the offensive line. Well, it's play calling. And it was play calling. But it's like, if we keep having these conversations, we can't turn around and be like, yep, got to give him an extension, because look at what he did against the Giants, and look at his numbers, and look at how great he's been this year. I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult decision to make on him right now, because I'm not 100% sure that I want to tie up $40 million a year to this guy. And if this is gonna be what they get every time they have an opportunity to be on a big stage, or he's just going to keep coming up short and we're going to blame everybody else for it.
Right.
What are we doing here?
But here's the other side of it. And this is the debate, and it's a fun debate. I mean, but the other side of it is, in a game like tonight, I agree with you. You want your guy to just sort of rise up and, hey, I know that the offensive line's getting beat, and I know that Thielen's not 100%, but guys, I'm not going to do it every game, and it's just too much to expect, but once in a while. But the type of dude that rises up and wins that game anyways is a more mobile quarterback who's also accurate, right? And how many guys in the NFL right now are mobile enough to get away from Riley Reif's turnstile, pressure up the middle as well? Yeah. How many guys are mobile enough to get away from that and accurate enough to make secondaries pay, throwing on the run, right? And there's like 5 or 6 dudes in the league that would maybe fall into that category.
And the thing.
They're not available.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing with that too. All right, if they do decide to give Kirk Cousins an extension and sign him to whatever he wants within reason, obviously. So we're talking upwards of $35 to $40 million a year, right? Well, every time he doesn't perform well, we're always looking at the offensive line, and we're always looking at, well, the defense didn't get enough stops, or the receivers are injured, or, Dalvin Cook. Whenever this guy doesn't perform well, it's because everything else around him is not perfect. Well, if he's making $35 to $40 million a year, guess what? It's going to be really hard for you to go out and be able to spend money on cap, use your cap space to go and get a left tackle that's better than Riley Reif. We had a caller just a few minutes ago saying, why is Riley Reif in the NFL? Well, because you need a left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate that Riley Reif is not Jonathan Ogden. But if Kirk Cousins is going to have success, you need Riley Reif to be Jonathan Ogden.
Yeah.
Guess what's going to happen if you have Jonathan Ogden at left tackle? It's going to cost you a lot of money because those guys get paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing you got to think about when you're talking about giving Kirk Cousins an extension. And that's what makes this conversation so hard.
That's Manny Hill. I'm Phil Mackey. Brendan Berger taking your phone calls here. And the lines are full right now, but as soon as someone makes their point and drops off, the numbers are 651-646-8255. This is Score North and Vikings Ventline on Score North here. We appreciate you listening or watching. If you're watching one of our feeds right now on Twitter, Facebook, or Twitch, let's go to Jonathan in Colorado. Vikings get smoked. Jonathan, what are your thoughts?
It just makes me wonder why the taxpayers keep paying for stadiums for Minnesota teams that are subpar.
I mean, Jonathan, in fairness, it is a really nice bar to hang out at when your team's getting its ass kicked, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Those doors open up beautifully, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Another disappointing year. Like they always say, there's always next year.
Yep. Thanks for the phone call, man. Let's go to Warren in St. Paul. Hey, Warren.
Yeah, this is a very. I just say the Vikes don't learn from what they've done, and the reason I say that is one. I don't care whatever you say. I don't care what quarterback you had back there last week. Offensive line is not NFL quality to be in the playoffs, and I'll tell you, they got two rookies on their team. They should have been playing since the beginning of the season. They played well. They got one of the best. Their fourth-round draft choice, Samia, is a really good guard, and he played extremely well in the preseason. And he should be playing. They got the other guy, the 320-pound guy that can run a 4.840, can still pull. They can't push defensive line back. And if you got a quarterback that doesn't have any time up there, I don't care who you got back there, they're not going to be winning the games. And I'll give you an example. Bradbury, they think he's such a great offensive lineman. The best player in the draft, the best player at his position is Eric McCoy with this is what an offensive lineman will do. They had an injured quarterback. He hasn't given up a sack all year. They've had injured offensive linemen. He's kept that team together, and he blows holes through the line. Bradbury shouldn't be starting this year, and it just goes to show you tonight. They need to have some offensive linemen that can push defensive linemen back. And when they cut off the angles, they can't run.
Yeah, Warren, thanks for the phone call. That's way easier said than done. Yes,
okay.
It would be great to have offensive linemen that could push the opposing defenses back. Yes.
So here's the deal. The Vikings offensive line was terrible tonight, and we've mentioned that a few times. Russell Wilson has had terrible subpar offensive line play for years.
In part because of his contract now, but yes. Yeah.
Andrew Luck, now granted, Andrew Luck had injuries and he ended up retiring as a result, but when Andrew Luck did play with subpar offensive line play up until last year, he was excellent. Colts made the playoffs, won a couple playoff games during that stretch. Your quarterback has to be able to overcome some of that stuff once in a while. And if you're going to pay him the big bucks, he's got to be able to overcome some of that, because it's going to be really hard to go out and pay to have all pro guys at all five positions on the offensive line. It's going to be really hard. You're not going to have a perfect offensive line, and the guy you have is going to need to be able to overcome some of that. He's going to need to be able to move around in the pocket a little bit. And Stefanski did not do Kirk Cousins any favors tonight. I understand that completely, but this is kind of the conundrum that they're in.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Also, we're definitely following you guys and your tweets at Score North, at Phil Mackey, at Manny Hill 84. We appreciate it. And even listeners like Winnesota, at Winnesota, who I can fight with all week about Twins free agency. We can all come together and agree the Vikings were terrible tonight. The Vikings were garbage tonight. AJ in Forest Lake, you're on Ventline.
Yeah, hey guys. The offensive line, I mean, I know everybody wants to rag on them, but this is the same offensive line that opened gaping holes for Dalvin Cook for most of the season to put him number 2 in yards rushing. I mean, this offensive line has performed very, very well for the most part in the rushing game and even pass protecting for some of the past few games. Tonight it was a disaster. But anyway, the one thing that I thought really, really just took the wind out of when we got that fumble with 2 minutes into the game, we're on the 8-yard line, and to kick a field goal is that is a killer. And we didn't even throw a pass into the end zone. We ran it for nothing. Cousins tried to throw a waist-high pass at I think Rudolph or somebody at the 5-yard line, and then of course he did the old CJ Ham routine, which was a failure.
Threw it over his head by 3 yards too.
Don't you have to throw it into the end zone, Manny? I mean, but that's not. But I don't know if that's Kirk. I don't know if it's Stefanski calling that play. You just got to throw it in the end zone. I don't get that. That was the killer.
Yeah, Kirk. Thank you, AJ. Kirk. I don't have the stats in front of me. Kirk goal to go in his career is really bad relative to the rest of the league. He's not the type. But some of it too is he is a classic pocket passer, and he's kind of a second tier pocket passer. If things are perfect, he's going to drop dimes. But I would venture to guess, again, this is not scientific. I don't have the research in front of me. But if the guys who perform better in the red zone, I mean, Lamar Jackson, I mean, like, you've got a defense that's just panicking that he's going to run for a touchdown.
Yep.
No one's thinking about that with Kirk. And so how many times tonight were the Packers able to just drop 8 guys back into coverage and say, all right, man, pick us apart. Go ahead. We're not going to, if you want to throw, you want to throw balls into tight windows, you go ahead. And the Packers with pressure and with rushing 3 and 4 a lot tonight made it really hard on Kirk. George in New Jersey, you're on the show. Vikings Ventline.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for taking the call.
Thanks for calling.
All right, so us Vikings fans, do we actually think that we could go through three playoff games away and win 3 in a row with Kirk Cousins? Okay, but we might as well put on the clown makeup now, because I'm looking in the mirror right now, because I believe I got the mascara on right now, because like are you kidding me with Kirk Cousins? And not to even mention just our organization in general choking in the playoffs, So like why even watch the rest of the season, because we know how it's gonna end.
Yeah. Here's the thing, George, I actually think hot take police can arrest me if they want to. I actually think they can win any of the road games, but not all 3. Like I think they can go into any of the road environments and win.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So we'll see.
I would, but like 3, considering that we can't even beat a team with a winning record in the regular season, and you're telling me we're going to beat 3 in a row in the playoffs, which is basically like prime time for it is no way. Like I'm throwing a lot at Kirk. It's not even. It's just the whole big team in general.
Yeah.
The whole team never even plays good in prime time anyway. So to say that we're gonna win, but it's just not happening, guys. Like, I'm sorry, but thank you for taking the call, guys. Love the show.
George, thank you for calling in here. And by the way, Vikings Ventline, if you're new to it, if this is your first time jumping in the pool, you can find it in podcast form, Apple, Spotify, or the Score North app.